If you're about ready to start building out IoT networks, you want to access one of the largest one around, Amazon is ready for you. Amazon's Sidewalk is now open for developers to start testing. Sidewalk is Amazon's IoT-focused solution for edge devices that utilizes Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE, and 900 megahertz wireless networks to provide coverage. Sidewalk is generated from Amazon's Ring cameras and Echo speakers, of all things, and it has 90% coverage across the United States, according to some reports. Yeah, there's a lot of those things out there in the wild. Tom, what is Amazon hoping to accomplish this, and are you concerned at all about this solution?
Why would I be concerned about Jeff Bezos having a whole bunch of devices connecting in my house and being able to cover the country? No, I'm not worried at all. I kid. I love what Amazon is doing with this technical coup, if you want to call it that. Is basically they take one of those things over on my desk and one of those things that's attached to my wall outside of my house, and they use it to broadcast, BLE, a couple dozen feet out, and then a 900 megahertz network much further out. And you may recall 900 megahertz as the thing that cordless phones used to use that allowed you to use them in the kitchen downstairs when you were talking on the phone. I know, home phones, how quaint. But the value there is that for devices that don't need to carry a lot of data, it's a really great way to provide a large connectivity area. I mean, you can't beat it. It doesn't get beat down by rain or trees, or 900 megahertz beam width is a lot wider, so it can go around buildings a lot better. And that is valuable for a lot of IoT or edge focused devices that are, maybe think about an edge compute device that's doing a lot of the computation power there on the device and maybe just sending the updates back to the cloud. That's a magical way to do it. The problem, as you mentioned, is the fact that, did you know that Sidewalk's been around for a couple of years? Do you know why it's been around for a couple of years and you don't know anything about it? Is because when they originally announced Sidewalk, it was a little bit of a ham-handed rollout because they turned it on for everybody. Like, they just announced it. They're like, oh, did we mention that it's live broadcasting out of your speaker in your doorbell right now? And everyone went, I'm sorry, what? No, we're not doing that. And so there was this big, massive pushback against Amazon to shut that down and kind of take their time, build in protections, roll it out. Now, a lot of people are comparing this to Apple's Find My protocol. And you may recall that you can now get an AirTag, and people are like, oh, it's like an Apple Tile. No, it's actually not, because it uses Apple devices like an iPhone, iPad, anything that has a cellular radio in it is almost like a sensing spot. So that's why your AirTag can be picked up when it's nowhere near a wireless access point, is because Apple phones are detecting the signals from the AirTag and transmitting them into the cloud so that Apple goes, yeah, your suitcase was over there. I like the idea, but what Apple did is they secured the network first. They made sure that no one could use it for nefarious purposes. And you probably have seen this. Like, my son has a pair of AirPods, and every time he gets close to me for more than 5 minutes, I get a thing that pops up on my screen saying, did you know there's a pair of AirPods that are traveling with you that can tell people where you're at? Like, I love the fact that Apple has built this in. What is Jeff Bezos going to do with it? Well, Bezos is kind of out of the loop now. So it's Andy Jassy and the rest of the people at Amazon. What are they going to do with it? What do you think their advertisers are going to want to do with it? Because that's what they're going to do. I hope that they're going to do this the right way. I hope they're going to build in security controls. They're going to make it opt-in instead of opt-out. I'm hoping they're not going to do things like, oh, I don't know, forward all of the traffic that goes through the Sidewalk network to law enforcement without a warrant. They don't have a history of that, right? Oh, wait, yeah, they do. They need to build this secure, because here's the thing. Normal people aren't going to care. Like, they're going to use it no matter what. Remember when ATT Wi-Fi was the most used wireless network in the world because it was at every Starbucks and it was pre-programmed into every iPhone? Well, we've moved past that. It's a little bit better now. The normal people aren't going to care. The problem is that the people like me and you and all of our wonderful listeners out there who are a little bit more security conscious, they're like, I don't trust about this. They're going to raise a big stink if this starts causing problems. And that's one of the problems that I think ultimately is going to be something important to discuss in edge computing, IoT focused devices or edge compute nodes, is this idea of what happens to that data at the edge. How can you control who sees it, where it goes, how it's being used over networks, what kind of security functions do we need? It's a pretty big thing that a lot of people are going to need to think about.
I know this isn't the closer look section, Tom, but I'm going to take a closer look at this too, because again, as you mentioned, with Edge Field Day, it's interesting to sort of consider the implications of this for edge computing. Another story that I want to bring in here is that there's been a lot of discussion this week on Hacker News when people discovered that Apple's iOS includes passpoint networks from the major carriers, and you can't disable them for some carriers. Essentially, what they've found, and again, this is what caused a big blow up this week, was that I believe the carrier was T-Mobile. That if you disable it, which is really hard and finicky and weird to do, it actually re-enables after a few minutes. Now, I can say I've got Verizon on mine, and their passpoint networks can be disabled and stay disabled at least for the last 24 hours on my phone if you want to try it. But the point is, it's not that these products are bad. In fact, I would say that Passpoint is objectively good. And if you look at some of the presentations, especially from companies like Aruba at Mobility Field Day and Aruba Atmosphere, you'll find that these things are actually pretty well designed, and they have security in mind, and they can provide a lot of good, useful service for end users. The problem is that we live in a world of distrust. And I don't blame people for distrusting it. As you mentioned, we've had companies in the past, including some of these exact companies, enabling services without telling users, sharing user data. The same week that people discover that T-Mobile's Passpoint can't be disabled, T-Mobile is announcing that they're now correlating, quote, billions of data points about consumers and selling that data to advertisers. You wonder why people don't trust these companies. You know what I mean? It's like, how about we do this right, folks? Passpoint, when I heard about it, I mean, you and I were together at this point. We were at the event together. They're announcing this. We're looking at it and we're saying, wow, Passpoint is incredible. Offloading cellular data to Wi-Fi to have better penetration within rooms, having it done securely with authentication off of your SIM card, having it done with encrypted backhauls. That's great. And the idea of basically crowdsourcing connectivity. You think about what people are talking about with things like LoRaWAN and with shared Wi-Fi networks and so on. Again, it sounds like, honestly, an objectively great idea from a technical perspective. The problem is that these companies just keep flubbing it from a privacy perspective. It's like, you have to get buy-in, you have to get permission, you have to ensure people and get people's trust that they're using it properly. And I think it's really interesting that even one of the companies that is more trusted by consumers, Apple, suffered a huge backlash to the crowdsourcing of AirTag data, even though they thought about security, they communicated about security and privacy ahead of time. Even despite that, consumers weren't ready to trust one of the most trusted companies. Now take that same thought and now apply it to some of the least trusted companies, and it's no surprise at all that they're having concerns about rolling this stuff out. I really would love to talk more about this. And really, this is one of the things I think that we're going to be diving into more and more at both Mobility Field Day and Edge Field Day.